It was 3 o'clock in the morning when the phone buzzed against the nightstand, jolting Lila out of a dreamless sleep. Her tiny apartment was cold, and for a moment she debated ignoring the call. After all, she had already worked a double shift at the hospital and her bones ached in protest. But the voice on the other end sounded desperate, almost pleading. A little girl had fallen ill, the caller said. They needed a nurse right away. Lila's tired heart stirred. She had chosen this profession because she couldn't stand the thought of someone suffering when she might be able to help. So without hesitation, she slipped into her scrubs, tied back her messy hair and grabbed the old leather medical bag that had seen more long nights than she could count. She told herself it was just another call, just another patient. She had no idea her life was about to change. The address she was given wasn't a small apartment or modest home like she was used to visiting. Instead, her cab pulled up to a towering glass and steel building that seemed to scrape the night sky. It was the kind of place where the lights never fully went out, a symbol of wealth and power. Rubbing her eyes, Lila double-checked the address. Surely this was wrong, but the doorman, dressed sharper than most people on their wedding day, nodded when she gave the name. "Penthouse, miss," he said, and pushed a button that opened gleaming doors to a private elevator. Her stomach twisted with nerves as the elevator climbed higher and higher, each floor taking her further from the world she knew. When the doors finally opened, she stepped into a space so pristine it didn't look lived in. It was all glass walls, polished marble, and silence, broken only by a faint cough from the far end of the room. That's when she saw him. Ethan Hale. She didn't know his name yet, but the moment she laid eyes on him, she knew he didn't belong in her world. He was tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a shirt that looked like it cost more than her month's rent, though it was rumpled and undone at the collar as if he had been pulling at it in frustration. His eyes, sharp and commanding, softened only when they flicked to the small girl clutching his leg. The child's cheeks were flushed with fever, her breathing uneven. In that instant, Lila forgot the penthouse, the intimidating man before her, even her own exhaustion. She dropped to her knees beside the girl, her voice low and soothing. "Hey, sweetheart, I'm Lila. Can I take a quick look at you?" she asked gently. The girl nodded, eyes glazed but trusting. Ethan hovered, arms crossed, jaw clenched. He looked like a man used to control, a man who had never been helpless in his life, until now. He watched as Lila took the girl's temperature, checked her pulse, and prepared a simple remedy from her bag. She moved with quiet confidence, every action deliberate, every word calming. Within minutes, the child's breathing eased and the lines of discomfort on her face softened. Ethan exhaled for what felt like the first time all night. "Thank you," he said, his voice rough. "I didn't know what to do." Her mother. He stopped himself, lips pressing into a hard line. Lila glanced up but didn't press. She knew grief when she saw it, and this man carried it like armor. Instead, she focused on the girl, stroking her hair until she drifted into sleep. When she finally rose to her feet, Ethan was still watching her, something unreadable in his eyes. "You're not the nurse from the agency," he said suddenly. The words froze her. "I what?" "I didn't call you," he explained. "I called an agency. They were supposed to send someone." "But you're not from them, are you?" Lila's mind spun. Had she really rushed here on a mistake? She fumbled for her phone, realizing in her haste she might have answered a wrong number or misunderstood the message. Heat flushed her cheeks. I must have gotten it wrong. I'm sorry, I'll just..." But before she could gather her things, Ethan stepped closer, his presence commanding. "No, don't go. You came when I needed someone and my daughter." His voice cracked just slightly before he steadied it. "My daughter trusts you. That's enough for me." Something about the way he said it, raw and unpolished, kept her rooted to the spot. She should have left. She had no business in a stranger's penthouse, especially a stranger who radiated power and authority like this man. But then the child stirred in her sleep, whispering, "Don't go, Nurse Lila." And Lila's heart gave her the answer she couldn't voice. The hours stretched on. While the city outside shifted from night to the pale blue of dawn, Lila stayed. She brewed tea from the expensive but untouched pantry, coaxed Ethan to drink something warm, and sat across from him at the massive dining table that could seat 20, but rarely hosted more than 2. In the quiet, they began to talk. Ethan confessed he had built his empire from the ground up, that his life was meetings, deadlines, and endless boardrooms. He confessed, too, that none of it prepared him for being left alone with a daughter who needed more than money could buy. Lila listened, her eyes soft, her responses simple but genuine. In turn, she shared pieces of her own story. Her struggles to keep up with hospital shifts, the loneliness of an empty apartment, the exhaustion of giving and giving until nothing was left. She spoke of why she became a nurse, because when her own mother had been sick, no one was there in time. She had sworn she'd never let another family feel that helpless. Something shifted in Ethan's gaze as he listened. For the first time in years, he wasn't thinking about business, profit margins, or the next corporate battle. He was thinking about this woman with tired eyes and calloused hands who had shown up when she didn't have to. When the sun finally rose, casting golden light across the glass walls, Lila stood and brushed off her scrubs. She's stable now. Fever should break soon. I should go. Ethan's expression darkened, almost panicked. Wait. She hesitated, bag clutched to her side. You said this was a mistake. That you weren't meant to be here, he said, his voice low but firm. But I don't believe that. You were exactly who we needed. His eyes flicked to his sleeping daughter, then back to her. Stay, at least until she wakes up. Lila should have refused. She should have reminded herself of the boundaries she was trained to keep. But when she glanced at the little girl's small hand clutching the blanket, when she felt the pull of Ethan's gaze, something in her melted. Hours turned into days. What began as a wrong number became routine. Lila found herself returning to the penthouse, sometimes to check on the girl, sometimes just to be there. She watched Ethan transform from a man drowning in responsibilities to a father learning to laugh again. He discovered that his daughter liked bedtime stories more than expensive toys, that she preferred pancakes made with too much syrup to the gourmet meals delivered daily. And in the quiet spaces between caring for his daughter, Lila and Ethan discovered each other. They bickered over silly things, her insistence that he actually rest once in a while, his stubborn belief that he didn't need help. But under the banter was something unspoken, something magnetic, a glance held too long, a hand that lingered when passing a cup of tea, a silence that said more than words. One evening, when the city lights glittered below like fallen stars, Ethan finally admitted what he had been holding back. I don't want you to leave, he said softly. Lila's heart pounded. Ethan, I know you didn't come here because of me. I know it was an accident, but nothing about this feels like a mistake anymore. Stay, not just tonight. Stay in our lives. For a moment, Lila couldn't breathe. She had built her world on caution, on keeping her heart safe behind walls of practicality. But here was this man, broken yet strong, offering her something she hadn't dared hope for, belonging. The little girl padded into the room then, sleepy-eyed and clutching her blanket. She climbed into Lila's lap without hesitation, resting her head against her chest. Don't go, she murmured, half asleep. Ethan's eyes met hers over the child's head, and in that look was everything he couldn't say. And in that moment, Lila knew she wasn't going anywhere. What began as a wrong call in the dead of night became the rightest thing in her life. She had shown up out of duty, but she stayed out of love, and the man who once believed he could control everything learned that sometimes the best things happen when control slips away. Ethan Hale, the powerful CEO, never let her leave, and Lila, the poor nurse who thought she was just filling a shift, found a home she hadn't even known she was searching for.